Easy yee, how are we?
Johnny, what's happening?
Interesting. I don't even know how to start this one, to be honest with you. So I went down a rabbit hole again. The other way you have like New Year, New You, and I'm always like take one thing at a time. But then I'm like, let's just load up into different challenges. And this week, coincidentally enough, out of all weeks, I get into a sec why I keep seeing the pros and cons of using ice baths and stuff. And I don't know why, but on my feed, the Wim Hof method keeps popping up. People using it, not like why it's used and stuff like that. And then I was hearing theories about how, even in work this week, about people telling me how important breath work is and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's just a time of year or whatever it is, but lately I feel like I am freezing all the time, like constantly cold. Like even today, it took me an hour and a half to get out. I was just procrastinating and eventually went and did a 10-mile run. But I'm still wearing tracksuit bottoms and hoodies. I just feel cold all the time. And I know we talked before in the podcast about how beneficial. And I'm getting to a point in a second. This has a smashing conclusion to this one. Trust me on that. But last year, I'm talking about sea swimming and stuff, and be like, no, that's not for me. And this was like September, and I was just freezing in the water. I've been in the water, the Irish Sea in August. Maybe it's always cold. I don't know. It's one thing that puts me off triathlons is constantly cold. So I'm constantly thinking about, cold exposure, this different thing, and just like really it's just annoying how easily I'm cold right now. I'm like, I have to do something. So maybe do this Wim Hof method. Maybe I'll do, the cold shower. So I went through a period of, you have a hot shower and a cold shower, 3 seconds to a minute. Like I was doing that kind of stuff. And then like last week, myself and herself went to some relaxation pool and steam room and all the rest. I hadn't got a sauna. I was very annoyed about that. But anyway, we were supposed to be there for 90 minutes. And after 30, I was like tapping out like, Neve, I'm done. And I tried to hop into the cold shower after the steam room. I was in there for like all of a half a second. And I was like, ooh, that was incredibly cold. I can't hack it. So here's where it hits a crescendo in my story and why I feel like I need to do something. Went down the rabbit hole about ice baths. Apart from seeing all the posts, I even seen it in newspaper articles this week. I woke up Wednesday morning for a reason. Very cold, couldn't get the heat into me for whatever reason. And this week I was doing a cycle into work. This week I was driving in, whatever. And I'm very sleepy in the mornings as well. Sometimes I don't make smart decisions, including this morning. So quick bit of food, on out the door. And I'm just feeling cold. An extra layer on me, but I still feel cold. And I get to the car and our gates are closed. So it's a good 30, 40 meters, if even. That's probably over-exaggerating from where the car is to the gate. And I'm like, right before I get to open the gate, I said, I'll put the key in the ignition to the car, start up the car, because that extra 20 seconds of the car heating up before I hop into it is going to get the heating on quicker. Key into the car, car hits the house.
Oh, no.
Let me tell you, if you ever want to be woken up in the morning, make a critical mistake like smashing the car off there.
Oh my God.
So what happened was the car was in gear and I didn't know. So I had opened the door and I had put the key in, but I hadn't actually sat into it and it just shot forward. I tell you, I didn't need a cup of coffee for the next couple of hours because I was wide awake and it wasn't as cold all of a sudden either.
It's called the Seán coffee method.
So if you ever want to wake up, just do something really stupid in the morning and that will wake you up.
Now, equally, why do people leave their car in gear unless they're parked on a hill?
I had to before the handbrake was gone. But so of course I had to apologize. I had to own up my mistake.
Yeah, no, I know it's your mistake, but I equally just don't understand. Like, if you know your handbrake's broken, then you've got more issues, and you're like, handbrake's broken. It's in gear. I
had to apologize. So when I said to her, she's like, you must have left it in gear. And I was like, uh-oh. I was like,
it was you.
You drove it last, but I can't give it out to you because it was my issue, it was my fault. But anyway, just to make it more relatable. So it was like, Mark, I felt like
that's a sign of maturity, knowing when to stop.
I had to stop. I was like, it's my fault. I had no business doing it that way, but I did it and I messed up. But to get back to something that people might actually take something from this, I still don't know when I'm going to do the Wim Hof method with the cold showers and like that. I do think there's a lot of placebo to it. But I was looking at ice baths and the pros and cons and stuff like that. And the recovery thing seems to be like the main, obviously people go into an ice bath to recover, because it stops inflammation. But inflammation is not necessarily a bad thing because it stimulates muscle growth and stuff like that. So if you're going for like hypertrophy gains, using ice baths may not be the best solution for you straight after. But if you need a quick turnaround, so let's say you've got a hard training session and then you hop into an ice bath, then it could start the recovery process and reduce swelling and stuff a lot quicker. So then you'd be able to train longer. So I suppose the thing with the ice bath seems to be, if you need to get more training sessions in, it can be appropriate to get the ice baths. But it just seems like a very like go-to thing for recovery. The kind of way, like it's like the best thing for recovery is sleep. But anyone can sleep 7-8 hours. Whereas hopping the ice bath seems like the cool thing. Like, have you used ice baths before?
I haven't used ice baths before. Yes, I have when I was playing soccer ball at a higher level, younger ages. It was, again, I think it's one of these things that comes in waves, pardon the pun, when it becomes ice bath. But yeah, that was in 2010, operating in teams around the League of Ireland. It was very much part of the post-training session. There was 3 or 4 of them there and you could jump in them. But yeah, it was something that people kind of did. Now, I was youngish and I didn't really care much for it. But I do appreciate the power of marketing because like that I have been getting not as much as you, but I have been getting notifications of the breathing techniques of the ice baths and seeing more and more people in my feed posting themselves getting ice baths or having their own ice baths at home. And I suppose there's a couple. So one of the guys in work actually does it every morning. That's his new thing. So
ice bath every morning.
Yeah, every morning, and then he's freezing in the car all the way to work, and he has the heating on. He defrosts about halfway. Is how he describes it, but he said it's absolutely brilliant. Now he's doing a lot of training. He's Iron Man after Iron Man, and he says it's absolutely brilliant for one, waking up. Yeah, he was like, you're awake. And then he says it just gives him a good start to the day. Now he does 10 minutes. So he sits in, so he's breaking the ice in the morning because it's obviously so cold. And then he just gets in for 10 minutes. And then he warms up after that. So he will do his ice bath and then go run.
Oh God.
Yeah. So when we're in Athlone on the aeromedical air ambulance, he will go down to the Shannon, get into the Shannon for 10 minutes, freezing. Get out, put on the runners, and he'll go do his 10K.
Wow. I think there's something to it is like it's getting that hard thing done in the morning as well. It's like that dopamine of doing something like something challenging, something tough that like I can't imagine that gets easier for him. Like that's not something that he does every day. Oh, it's easy doing now. It's more like that motivation, that routine of just keep going at it and going at it.
The repetition, I suppose the body will get used to thing. Like the body is adaptable as anything, and it'll get used to, here we go, and then you're breathing and just relaxing and knowing what to expect and exposure and everything that does to the nervous system and the parasympathetic system and everything. You're just like, we're used to this now. You know, like it's but yeah, no, he did have a lot of reasons for it, and I'm struggling to drag out the exact, but he's definitely one we could definitely get on the podcast to talk about.
100% to be interesting.
It's but yeah, I'm gonna start doing it when I get back down there with him. When we're on.
Are you?
Yeah. I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna get into the Shannon with him and just see why. Because because like you, I've seen all this. And my brother's doing the sea swims every Saturday morning, and I don't know, he's coming out like hypothermia, mild hypothermia every day, and I'm like, this is kind of stupid. Yes. But there always, like anything, is a background science to the whys. The problem is, and I know for a fact, a lot of people who are doing this are not sure as to why. They're not sure as to the exact method based on performance. So obviously, if you're on the gain train, you probably shouldn't be, like the timing of it, like it's like anything. It's like nutrition, for example. It's like, let's take even towards the end when we're tapering. Like they're carb loading. it's a method. It is a method that has a lot of research into it, and it has a prescribed value timings and etc. to get the best out of it. Otherwise, are you really giving yourself a helping hand? Maybe not.
It's
mentally,
not just
absolutely.
Yeah.
But so there has to be, my personal opinion is, you need to know why you're doing it. You need to know when to do it, and what effect it is having, and then have that control. Now, we always say mentally, if you feel like it's making you do better, keep doing it.
Yes.
But if you're actually looking for, right, this is making me better because, and backing that up, that's why I have to do it. And I'm fairly certain he's done a lot of research into it, and that's why he's doing the cold water before he goes running. He's getting the muscles to warm up with him because, and I think it is to do with the inflammation. It prevents the inflammation developing during his run and afterwards. So he's actually recovering then quicker by just getting in the shower then and going to work.
And I assume that's because of like he said at the start of it, he's doing triathlons and Ironman. So he's probably out running, cycling, swimming every day of the week nearly. So it's the absolute volume.
Twice, yeah.
So it's because that's so much. I can only assume until we have on the podcast that it's because of that absolute volume that it's reducing swelling, inflammation, everything else, that he doesn't need that time to. He needs to get back out there as quick as he can. So that's why the ice baths is helping. But if you're only training 3 times a week, the ice baths are probably not necessary. It's probably not best getting up and losing an extra half hour, 40 minutes sleep to set up an ice bath and go for it, where an extra 40 minutes in that case would do that person better. But if he gets an extra 40 minutes of sleep, it probably means that he hasn't got time to get his run in before going to work. And all of a sudden he's 10K down, and that the volume and the mileage of what he needs to that week, that will soon enough add up, is what I can assume. And before we hit the intro music, because we did talk about breath work, the one thing I did hear about it, and I don't know the why stuff like that, but I can imagine it works. So you can kind of like lower stress levels. And even if you feel like you're antsy or stuff before, like, I don't know, going in for a job interview or going to work or dealing with a stressful situation, the reviews and stuff I've seen, the reports I've seen this week, has been that taking that big deep breath in through the nose, getting all the air into the body, and then trying to get an extra breath in.
I've read this.
And breathing out. Did you hear that one as well?
Yeah.
And then breathing out at the end of it. Now, no idea if it works or not, whether it's 5 minutes out of the day to do it, and it's not really you're not going to get any worse doing it that way, where it could have benefits. But then again, like, if you did every single recovery benefit, you'd never have time to train. You'd just be sleeping, ice baths, breathe, breath work, mobility work all day. It's like, right, you need to go for a run. You got an event coming up. It's like, I ain't got time to run, but my breathing is really good. But like, it's everything in balance and moderation. I think sometimes we just look for that kind of that magic wand, that kind of quick fix, stuff like that. Not to say that the breath work is not good. It could be phenomenal. It's one of those things that I'd be interested in trying myself. But you still need to balance training stuff into it as well. So with that said, I think we'll go straight into the intro music for this week's episode of the Any Given Monday podcast. Let's go.
You really need to get better at knowing when it's an intro. Like, that was about a 15-minute intro.
that was like, pretty much most of the show. I've got nothing else to talk about
now. is the music that good that we have to play it? Do you know, like, can we just say, look, we'll play the intro music tomorrow?
I think it's just one of those things where you kind of do because it's the
routine.
Done thing. It's it's routine. It's a done thing. It's like that. I mean, the intro could be longer than the second half of the podcast, really.
Now I'm kind of like, right, so how do we restart talking about the same stuff we were just talking about? But I do have something I did think about as that gorgeous intro music was playing there. So the breathing techniques as well. And now I haven't done much into I can't even remember. Is it Wim Hof technique.
David Hasselhoff, I thought you were going to say next.
Don't hassle the Hoff. So so like his documentaries and stuff, I have seen parts of it. I have seen some of it, and it's very impressive what this man does. It's like in terms of like, he's in his little tongue there going up an icy mountain, and there's not a bother on him, and he's keeping calm, he's doing this, he's getting into it. And you're seeing people, he brings people into his little magical enchanted forest, and they all get into ice cold water, and they're in there for about a half hour, and now hypothermia, and now this and that. So like, in terms of just understanding hypothermia, like, because we do a lot of teaching on it in work, and if we have to abandon a helicopter at sea, we're wearing immersion suits, and then you're constantly thinking, well, I'll wear the extra clothes because even though the water's not touching me, I'm going to start to cool down, and then I'm going to start to get hypothermic, and then game over. So you're trying to, that's a fear, genuinely a fear of, if we do go into the water, like this is one of the things that's out to get us. So, and we train for it and we dress for it and all that kind of thing. And then I'm seeing these people in an ice bath for 40 minutes and I'm like, what? This is not making sense. So I am curious. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's just one of these things. I'm like, have I got the time? I barely stretch as it is, and that's my fight. I'm like, right, just stretch. Forget about your ice bath. Just stretch. You can't even hold a hamstring stretch for a minute. How are you going to get into an ice bath for 30? Now, I do appreciate you just have to sit. So I can do that, but I'll have to, just because of this and because you mentioned it now, I think I'm gonna look into it. I think like you, I'm gonna see what it does. I think he does have a book as well, Sean. I think there's a book.
He has an app on it anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if I got that far.
Okay, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. This podcast has been sponsored by Wim Hof Med.
No, if he starts actually sponsoring it, I'll be telling everyone.
Well, we'll try it out then. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's definitely something to look at. Like the science behind just breathing, and it gets into everything. Like anxiety is a big word that's thrown around, and we tell people to go for a run because it does help relax. Okay, we're increasing inflammation, we're using muscles, we're burning the sugars in the muscles, we're expending the energy that's going to help us sleep. And that's us getting into the science of why we run, but we don't really. We just say, just go for a run. It's good for your mental health. That's one thing. And then into these breathing techniques as well. I think it's another method for clearing your mind because you have to focus on something. But when you're running, you're in the first, for me, 5K, the brain's like, stop. What are you doing? 6K. Oh, there's a squirrel. Well, and that's it. It just off it goes. The mind just sorts everything out and compartmentalizes all that happened to me in the week. And then I've expended that anger and everything that I've built up. And then I'm in the car going, that was nice. And that's where I think when we look at some of the mindfulness apps and everything else, it's asking you to focus on things and focus the mind. And like one of the techniques I use when I'm going to sleep is counting down from 10,000. And you're probably like, what? It's like, but the idea is when you're lying in bed, you focus on your breathing, take a couple of deep breaths, because like deep breathing, no matter what you do, you're supplying oxygen. Like as we're talking now, you're taking shallow breaths and you're breathing as normal. You're not going and then talking again.
It'd be an awful podcast if I did.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like when you're taking in the oxygen, you're just stimulated your parasympathetic nervous system, or your PNS, and that's what's promoting calmness. Like it's. And that's why take that deep breath, then take the additional. You're just forcing more oxygen in, and then the body's like, oh, that's okay. Everything is fine. It's not, because you have to think the body reacting as the force. Like we got a fright, we start breathing heavy, the heart rate increases. So what's the opposite to that? Try and calm everything down, and taking deep breaths does that. It calms down that system. And that's where I suppose when you get into the water, this is my theory. This is the theory of Eric Lawless stated on the 12th of February 2023, that when you get into the water, and we all know from RNLI lads and everything, when it's like, if you're thrown into cold water, lie on your back and try to calm down, because what happens when you hit cold water? Shortness of breath, everything. So, and that's where I think these are good benefits. It's forcing you to think through the shock. It's forcing you to go, relax, take a breath. And then you do reach this state of calmness, even though it's freezing cold, you do reach a state of calmness for a period of time. And then you're like, okay, now it's sore because it's really cold. But like everything, like a breathing technique or mindfulness and stuff, it is a focus. And that's where my 10,000 hours, I'm relating it back to, because I'm lying there with a busy brain, and then I start at 10,000. I get to 9,999. I wonder what I'll have for lunch tomorrow. Oh, back to the start, 10,000. 9,000, and you get to 8, you get to 7, you get to 6, you get to 5. I wanted to take things up. No, back to 10,000. So the aim of the game is you don't let your brain wander. And when your brain wanders, you stop, you acknowledge it, you go back to the start. And eventually, as you get good at this meditation, you can actually count nearly through 100. And then at some point, you fall asleep. Yeah. It's because you're focusing that mind into a relaxed state with a little bit of breathing here and there. You're trying to calm down everything. And that's where I think the ice bath, and that's where I'm interested into the benefits, because it's that in its extreme. It's a body shock and then forcing it to calm down, through thought, through breath, through focus, through motivation, through all those good things we're talking about. And this is where, to my other point about, are you using it in the right way? And this is the one side that it says it doesn't matter what you're using it for. That element is positive. That experience for you is a very positive thing, because you're not worried about who texts you as you get in that water. Let me tell you that much. You're not worried about, did you take anything out of the freezer? It is an absolute focus, because when I hit this, so there's fear. So you have the fight or flight reaction. You get into the water, shortness of breath, and then focus, breathe. How long has it been? All you're worried about is time and breathing at that point. That method alone is a meditation. That method alone helps with anxiety through all the other sciences of the why. And it's, for me, I think it's a great thing. For me, That's why I encourage, go for a sea swim. And everyone's like, oh, I feel great. I don't know why. That's okay. As long as you feel good afterwards. And then this is why we're talking about it here, for other reasons, through what we know and have experienced ourselves. And yeah, I think there has to be benefits. And then when you're talking about training for something, you need to treat it like a boxer who's going to shed all that water weight before the weigh-in. You need to look at it as a prescription, as in, I want this result. This is the best way to use this, through journals that have been published, and this is showing this result. And that's how you should use it in terms of training. Personally, I think, and I will start to use it as the volume increases and stuff, and start to use it correctly for recovery. But yeah, I think overall, in terms of just a breathing technique, I think you did a bit of deep breathing as well, didn't you?
I used to do at the end, back in the day when I was doing one-to-one PTs, I used to do a lot of at the end of sessions, a lot of box breathing, where you hold the breath for 4 or 5 seconds, just get the heart rate back down again. And you would see it, like people's heart rates whatever way I do the finisher or stuff like that, just kind of like getting up and going at the end, where I was using battle ropes or sleds. I was a big fan of using them finisher, and I was just lying down, put the feet up, slow deep breaths in and out, 4 minutes. I used to have an app and stuff for, and people's heart rate come right down. They're like, relax. I didn't want them all like this before, like jitters and stuff, before getting behind the wheel of a car again. So just a nice way just to get the heart rate back down, start the recovery process, and away you go. That's why I had done it. Yeah, I kind of got away from that for a long time, the breathing part of it, actually. And for some reason, just this week, if you breathe in ice baths, it's just all, it's all kicked in. The other thing that's kicked in this week that I'm seeing a lot of, and once again, this is probably just because of the whatever way the algorithms and stuff work, people are kind of like, I'm just seeing stuff on whatever it's football or rugby or how good the Irish team is and all the rest now. But I get to see breathing, breath work, ice baths, and everyone is on board with the 80-20 train, as in like 80% slow runs and 20 hard. And you can go back to the start of this podcast, and I was just like, that is not for me. Like, this is only 3 years ago we're running this podcast. And I remember, like, I was just like, no, this whole going slow to go fasting, I haven't got the patience for it. I'm not doing it. I'd rather strength train, get the run in, get done quicker. And look, for some people, they can do that and they can get all the benefits and stuff from it. For me, it led down the road of injury. And it was funny enough, because I remember like years ago you were talking about you listened to the Rich Roll audiobook, and I'm only starting to read it now. So it got to the chapter where he's doing a stupid long swim, 2-day cycle, and then a run. But the run is like a double marathon at the end. And he talks about taking it like 4 miles. So the strategy is go 4 miles run, 1 mile walk, 4 mile run, 1 mile walk. I remember you'd said that to me before. I'm like, this, and I was still the mindset of like walking during a marathon. Nah, you got to run it. Anytime you're going for a run, you got to run it. Like, nah, sometimes you slow down, work on the heart rate and build up from there. And then he talks about how, like, the second half of the race, he starts to pass people out. But at the same time, it's not a miracle thing because he starts to struggle at mile 40 because certain amount of miles in the legs is still going to get you. But it's just mad how it's gone from a few people talking about this whole 80-20 to now everyone's like, it's almost gone the opposite way. Isn't like, they're like, this is the only way to go all the time, regardless of what type of run you're doing. 80-20.
I'd just like to highlight that in a roundabout way, you're saying I was right 3 years ago, and I appreciate it.
I throw my hand up again. I've matured a lot. For me, I got that wrong.
I'm a trailblazer, an absolute trailblazer. But now, his book is, he turns into a vegan because he eats loads of cheeseburgers, and then he's standing at the side of the road, Jobby, isn't this the book, isn't it?
No, he's going up the stairs for his 40th birthday, and then he turns to vegan. Now, I almost put the book down because, like, he's talking about he's taking shakes and how they work for the first week, only shakes, and then he's just about to keep going with the shakes, and then eventually he stops. And, like, right up to then, I was going to stop. Thankfully, he stops doing the shakes, but he's still vegan. We talked about it last week in the podcast. That is his identity. He is vegan. So there is a couple of chapters in the book where he's talking about who is vegan, and this is what annoys me about vegans. Like he like, it's so one-sided. It's like Nate Diaz the vegan and he beat Conor McGregor, but they fought twice and Conor McGregor won one of the fights, and kind of way it's like, what was Conor McGregor better that time because he didn't eat meat? Did Nate Diaz have a chicken burger before the fight and realize, he left his vegan principles behind that he lost? Like, you're simplifying some of the accomplishments just to, he's vegan and he beat Conor McGregor. It's like, come on. Like, and Nate Diaz is a phenomenal athlete. And then they mentioned how, the big one's always Arnold Schwarzenegger's a vegan, and you'd be like him. It's like, well, he wasn't a vegan in his prime and he still eats steak now. So, like, come on, like, he's vegan 80% of the time. Just be honest about it and be like, it's not a case of they're 100% vegan all of the time. Sometimes they have, like, I think it can be a phenomenal lifestyle and stuff, but that kind of bashing just makes me close the book. Yeah. Now, I'm halfway through. I still think it's a phenomenal book, phenomenal read, but that part just irritates me when you see that and then they're like, sure, such and such is, and sure, this player off, like this, like the Game Changers, it was like a couple of players off the Tennessee Titans are vegans, and sure, they're doing great. And it's like, yeah, but most of the other 31 teams in the league aren't vegan, and Tennessee Titans haven't won a Super Bowl in God knows how long. Have they ever won a Super Bowl? Actually, I'm not too sure they have. Maybe they have once. The last time I remember they were in the Super Bowl was 20 odd years ago, and they're like 2-3 yards shy of winning it, but they didn't win it. So, and they weren't vegan back then, and it's just like,
yeah,
like it can be a suitable lifestyle, but at the same time, it's like, if you know what you're doing and you get your protein sources elsewhere, I'm not bashing it that way, but just don't be like, this is the absolute be all end all, and because such is the absolute best thing, because those that are not on that diet can turn around and go, well, what about all these people?
Yeah, it's I would recommend people, and it's just myself, to read the book rather than get the audiobook, because he bored the crap out of me. It was a slog. No, it's just, I think he reads it himself. Mother of God. I actually nearly crashed the car one time from falling asleep. It is bad. Now, I did appreciate, I got some more knowledge into vegan substitutions from the book, which is very good because there's certain elements of foods that will carry proteins and stuff he was talking about. And I was like, ooh, that's a quick and easy way to get it in on a cycle without you having to eat a chicken fillet or a protein shake. Like I did get a great insight into that. And again, it's how, through this podcast, through our training and through all of my trials and errors and courses and stuff, I've started to learn about the scientific method of just doing things. I was like, yes, you can be vegan. That's no problem. So how are we going to get to this standard or this goal? And it's like, okay, you need to do this and this and this without using this and this. So therefore we need to do these at these times. And it's just a to-do list to get there. And it is nice because you do see him turn his life around, and or you hear about it if you keep awake during his book. But there are some great nuggets in it. And he does talk about his 80-20 rule. He talks about getting a coach who tells him to walk up hills and stuff.
Yes.
And it has been something that has been done particularly with high level athletes, like Rachel. Let's take Rachel, our very own.
Yeah.
Rachel won her half Ironman, and the furthest she ran was a half Ironman. So she wasn't putting in, I need to run 30K in order to do 21. So she was focusing on pace, intensity, this. So when she's doing easy runs, it's easy for 7K, or, you know, like it's not like I'm going to do an easy 30K. It's, I'm going to do this day for this amount of time. Then I'm going to go at my race pace for this amount of time. She is more prescribed in exactly what she's doing. And I'm going to do strides for this many seconds and this many seconds, and that's from years and years of experience. She doesn't think about it.
Her body.
She's coach, she knows her body, she knows everything. So, but yeah, essentially 80-20 means you do easy peasy, heart rate low for 80% of the time, and then 20% of the time you're going to the fullness of your expectation. Except you're pushing the body as well. And like most marathon plans, I think all of this, again, 80-20, heart rate training, intensity, tempo, MFPs, all this, it's good marketing. It's someone trying to frame something and go, how do we make money off our method? That's same as everyone else. Like, you go back to, all right, here's my random one of the day. Let's take a trip back to when we used to be cavemen and women. So the male used to eat a big feed, and then they would run after their prey until the prey ran out of steam, and then they'd kill it very easily. That was one of the methods.
That was a legit thing, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where, like, the hunter-gatherer would store their energy, and they would run until the animal got so tired it just pretty much fell over, and then they killed it. So how far that is, now you look at the likes of leopards and cheetahs and lions, they don't attack until they're nearly certain they're going to kill it, because they expend everything, bang, and it's all out effort to kill. And after that, they sleep for a couple of days after they eat, because they're wrecked. They're very precise in it, and that's why we developed this little bit of endurance, because that was one of the methods of hunting down prey, was just, okay, I'm going to run after it until that can't run anymore, just keep it in sight. That was the method. You just keep the animal in sight. So I can't imagine they were expending maximum energy to get to their reward, if that makes sense. They just had to keep it in sight. You just had to keep moving. You just had to keep doing. Fast forward a couple of thousand years, we're talking about an 80-20 rule of how to do sport. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
So although that's a very simplified Eric version of how we've developed, our bodies have developed, they have changed. We've got stronger, we've got faster, we've had science, we've had this. But like, controlling that heart rate is so vitally important for endurance. It is in itself building fitness without, like, we're after talking about why we do ice baths, because of intensity, inflammation, putting the body under pressure. And you can't do that all the time. You can't run an engine at full tilt all the time, or it's eventually going to seize or give in. So, like, a slow run is moving, it's controlling the heart rate, yet we're not firing all the cylinders. We're just progressing towards this better fitness, this better all-round fitness. And the best way to do that, if you want to have a volume of training, is to keep it minimum most of the time, and then go beyond your race pace for the best time. And then that's when you increase your pace. That's when you see the increase in fitness and strength, because you're pushing, you're explosive, you're this, you're that. And then you allow another 4 training sessions to happen where you don't trigger those muscles. You don't trigger that kind of part of the body, but you build that endurance, and the heart rate's like, oh yeah, we're comfortable here. And that's essentially, no matter what plan you buy, 80-20, 60, whatever it is, everyone's trying to tell you to be training but recovering and not exerting too much until that maximum effort, because you want to experience what it's going to be like on the day of the event. And that's essentially what it is. And in fairness, he does talk about it, and he adds in statistics from good coaches, and he name drops a good few people that make you go, this is brilliant. How has no one thought of this?
Yeah.
Look at every marathon plan. Easy run Monday, this on this day, intervals on Wednesday, easy run, tempo run Saturday. So you look at the whole week, it's about 80-20. maybe 70-30, some weeks 60-40, and you do need to change it up. You can't just go, sorry, I'm on this.
No, work away. In this one, I mean, you deserve the podium after being me admitting you're right after 3 years. I can't have said it though in another podcast episodes, but yeah, no. So if you go back those early episodes, I am wrong.
you also need weeks where it's 100% maximum effort. Do you get what I'm saying? You can't just say, I'm going to do 80-20. You know, like an Ironman is maximum effort for 10 hours at a very quick pace. So you're going to have to go through a week where, right, my cycle's going to be hard on Monday, my run's going to be hard on Tuesday, and you're putting in volume at good effort, and you're setting yourself up for a bit of pain. And then after the week, maybe 6 weeks out from an Ironman, you do this.
Yeah, you've built your foundation.
You're back into your 80-20, 60-40, 50-50, 70-30. So like everything, like nutrition, it's everything in moderation. And that 80-20 rule is fantastic. And especially when it means getting started on a training plan, because mentally thinking of how hard it's going to be is one of the contributing factors to not doing it. So by knowing it's only an easy run, by knowing it's only stretch and 3 rounds of weights, by knowing it's only this little thing to do, it's easier to just get started. And that's why an 80-20 rule is fantastic. And people are always like, I can't run a marathon. I was like, just start. And in the first 3-4 weeks, it's all 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 25 minutes. And it's like, geez, that's not bad, actually. Okay, well, this week we're going to 40. Oh, God, 40 minutes. And you do your 40 minutes, like, I actually found it easier than I thought it would. And that's the catalyst. That's all you need. And we've stuck to an 80-20 rule because it was easy. It was attainable. It was measured. Recovery was easy. And then you push. And now we're starting to go, okay, is it 70-30 this week? Could be 50-50. So it's not a hard and set fast rule, but it's great for a start.
Yeah, 100%. It's the same with you're in the gym. Like your very first session shouldn't be, okay, let's go max effort and deadlifts and bench and squat and stuff and completely crush the person, because you're going to feel tired and sore leaving anyway. So if you completely crush that person, they're never coming back. Whereas in a run, they're like, first session, right, 5K, how fast can I do it in? It's like you are just completely crushing yourself. You're more likely to get injured and you're not going to come back. If you're running as hard as you can, no matter where it's 5K, 100 meters, depends where your fitness levels is. If you feel like you're constantly going to feel like getting sick, you're only human. Like this whole no pain, no gain thing is BS. I hate that phrase, no pain, no gain. It's said all the time. I hate it because it's like, you don't have to push yourself to the point of pain in each and every session. Yes, there's times where there's intervals like, oh, it's go time, not 20%. But for the most part, it's just gradually building yourself up, building those foundations and getting better and better. And I'm halfway through that book and I am enjoying it. It's just that vegan thing. I understand that when I'm more thinking about it, that like he's showing examples of athletes that can do it, so you could do it too. And I don't think you have to have steak and cheeseburgers to be an athlete if you know where the protein sources are coming in. Don't just ram it down my throat.
Yeah. Listen, when he's speaking about it and it's like a lullaby, you don't need your 10,000 method that I use. You just turn him on, you fall asleep. It's a hard listen. It was one book, and unfortunately, no, I didn't give it a bad review. I'm not that kind of person, but I'm going to slide him on a podcast. But no, it is a hard listen because it's just not exciting. It's just all monotone, and this is why I was like, oh.
There's some books in Audible that are fantastic to listen to.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Goggles one we've talked about before. Like I listened to one before on Ali, and like your man does the Ali voice, and it's like you feel like you listen to Ali. It's like, this is absolutely brilliant. And then there's some you're really interested in topic, but like you say, it's just a monotone, or there's an accent to it, or there's just something.
Yeah.
Like, certain words they say drive up the wall. You're like, no, I can't listen to that. I have to put it off, or I will crash the car again.
I don't know if it was this book, but definitely with this book, I fast forwarded to 1.5 times speed, and he was speaking normally. I believe. Yeah, I think it was this one, but again, maybe it wasn't. But yeah, I think I fast forwarded him just to make it more interesting. So
life hack.
Yeah, there's a little life hack if you do get the audiobook. But yeah, no, it is good. It is another, again, each of these books, good or not, there is something to take from it. Like I'm not able to go on my little rants here from just being me. It's because I've started to read and open. And this is the thing, like I know we we don't have an opinion. And I think when we started this podcast, Sean, we had an opinion. We thought that steak was great. Now, I don't, we were set in our ways. And since doing it and having guests on the podcast, we've kind of gone, let's be the dumbest person here. What do you do?
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to take a nugget of that, though. I don't agree with you entirely based on my own biases and my own upbringing and my own everything. But I like that bit. And then you take another bit of everyone and then you build, if you treat yourself like a blank canvas, you put this in the corner here, you might add this, that'll add a little bit of this. And then you try and build a good package that works for you. And that's where some of the vegan elements, I'm like, oh, that's a very clever way to get a protein in while I'm cycling without it being a shake or a steak, So there's nuggets. There are fantastic nuggets in all of these books, and it's it's really, really good. It is really, really good. So not to slate it, put you off it, just speed it up. But yeah, if you want a different perspective into and he turned his life around at 40. He was eating 4 cheeseburgers a day kind of job, living on the road, working, family, kids, and then got into ultras at 40. So and vegan and all that. So it's a different perspective, and it's always good to see what's on the other side, and always have an open mind when you read it.
And someone else could read that and go, Jesus, I always think I couldn't do that because I didn't have time to do it. And yet I found he has, a busy lifestyle and everything else with his work and stressful job, being a lawyer and everything. And all of a sudden, he's got a family, and yet at 40, he's still turning around. And it is a pretty cool book. So far, I can only say, because like I said, halfway through. But I think you kind of put a bow on that episode of the podcast there. Can I ask anything else to add this week's episode?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you do? Oh, you've got something wrapped up?
Yeah.
Okay, shoot.
We are 2.5 weeks since I stopped eating sweets because I got my hair did, and I have lost a stone.
You've lost a stone.
Yes, I was 100 kg when I weighed myself when I come back from my procedure. We'll take away a kilo based on fluid retention from surgery and stuff. But
right,
I'm 93 kilos as of today. And what have I done? I've just ate my meals during the week. They've been a mix and match. Yesterday I had fish and chips with curry sauce. I got some extra chips because I was still a bit hungry, and it was Sunday and I was in working on duty. So I was like, calories don't count on duty. But I changed my attitude towards that one as well. And I had a couple of marshmallow sweets because I didn't eat any other sweets over the week. And I had a slice of cake yesterday. But during the week, Monday to Friday, I have been good as gold. And I have drank plenty of water, and I've ate my meals. They haven't been salads. I have eaten, what did we have? Burger night is Friday night. So I make my burger and my homemade chips on a Friday. And then throughout the week, I was cooking dinners and pastas and this and that. But I've been eating my meals, no treats, no sweets. 1 can of Coke I've had this week, and I'm down a stone in weight. And that is just Christmas habits. And the big thing happened on burger night, because I love my burger night on a Friday. But so we go and get the big Angus ones, 8 ounce, and I cooked them at home with homemade wedges, and it's good. But I look forward to a fizzy drink.
Great segue from the vegan talk, by the way.
Yeah, love burgers. So anyway, So, but one thing I did this one, and it's probably a little method, and I'm going to try and add in a little nugget from me. Okay. I love my fizzy drinks. I don't drink tea or coffee. If I drink tea, it's because I want to eat the packet of biscuits, and that's why I don't drink tea. So if I have the fizzy drink, I actually have sparkling water, and I have my waddy. So I wanted my fizzy drink, and Katie had poured me the sparkling water first. And I was like, yeah, it's Friday. It's supposed to be fizzy drinks. So anyway, I lost a rag about me not having a fizzy drink routine, because I was kind of, unbeknownst to myself, I was thirsty and craving it and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I said, do you know what? It's poured, it's sparkling water. I'm just going to drink it. And it was lovely and cold because it's in the fridge. So I got through the point of that. And then I had this magical moment where I was like, I actually don't want that can of fizzy anymore. And I put it back in the fridge. And I was like, whoa. 2 weeks to break a habit. Holy God. So not only that, the power of choice comes back through little tweaks. And that's what I want to give people this week, and what we're talking about. So with the 80-20 rule, no matter what you're doing, little tweaks for a consistent period of time gives you back the power of choice and tricking your body. And that's exactly what it is. That's what the sparkling water in my body is for me. I got the trick. I got my fix. The can went back into the fridge, and it's good. It's progress for me. I'm recovering. My married Lois and I've been 7 days without a fizzy drink.
And on that bombshell, congrats on losing a stone. That's a phenomenal amount of weight though in a week. That's. But you're used to doing something crazy things like that though.
Yeah, and this one's not crazy. And again, it goes back to last week's episode. If you haven't listened, go back and listen. We talk about body set points and where your body wants to be as long as you put in unprocessed foods. And most of my foods are home cooked. And and you know what? No, next week. No,
next week. Write it down. Write it down so forget. Write it down. Next
week. It's a small little nugget for anyone who's listening who wants to get into dealing with the best of produce and making just healthier choices Monday to Friday, and that's all it is.
So we're keeping intros to the podcast, even though we kept the same topic going, and now we're adding in like next time on the Any Given Monday podcast.
Next time in a world of processed food. Okay, yeah, right.
All right, we're done. Congrats to everyone who did the 50k Dundee on Saturday. Phenomenal achievement getting that done under the 5 hours. Everyone listening, fair play to you guys. And on that note, that is it from myself and Eric. Thanks for listening. Take care.
Bye.